Good morning and welcome to Emmanuel Presbyterian Church. I want you to know this morning that session has voted to cancel worship for the next several weeks. I wanted to give you a little bit of information about how that's going to work. We have in fact canceled worship for the 15th, 22nd, and the 29th, but we will be attempting to have the sermons and some music and a time of prayer, make it available through an online presence like this video or some other forms, and we'll communicate those through our web presence on Facebook, Twitter, and our website, as well as some calls perhaps. We've also canceled in-person church meetings throughout this time, unless we are contacted, if you're a member of a committee, by the chair of the committee, the moderator. Same with choir. Those of you who are in choir, I would invite you to check in with Susan to find out what the plan is for preparing for Holy Week. We have had session members call folks yesterday, but we will continue to ask session members to touch in with you as we go through this time to make sure that everything's okay with you, that if you have any needs, we can get those met. We're going to close the office to the public, but our office staff will be here to take calls and to handle any emergent issues that you might have. We do ask that if you are going to come to the office, that it be for a particular purpose, and that you would give the office staff a call before you come down to make sure that they're able to meet you, and that in that time they would be able to adhere to all of the safety standards that we're being advised to follow by the CDC. We invite you to go to the website. There's some additional information, some facts and questions there if you'd like to have some more information. Or if you do have a question, contact one of the elders, the elder who's given you a call. Or if you're not a member of the congregation, just have questions, give the office a call and we'll try to get answers to your questions as soon as we can. Be at peace in this time and know that even in this, God is with us and God is with you. Have a good day. Today's reading comes from the Gospel of John, 4th chapter, beginning at the 5th verse. Listen. So, he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. And the Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria?" And Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans. And Jesus answered her, "If you know the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and flocks drank from it?" And Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give them will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." And Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." And the woman answered, "I have no husband." And Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true." And the woman said to him, "Sir, I see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You'll worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here, when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that the Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." And Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I normally set Fridays aside to work on the sermon. Oh, I begin preparation well before then, and by the time I sit down to write, I have a good idea of what I want to say and how to get there. When things go well, I have a draft by noon, and plenty of time to let it rest and tinker with words or phrasing. If an illustration isn't working just the way I wanted it to, I have time to try another. But when things don't go well, I find myself writing a little, and then electronically flipping wadded up pages into my trash folder over and over again. And all too often I find myself struggling with the finer points of the sermon, the transitions, or the order of the sections, even before I have the basic elements written out. And when this happens, it's like digging in sand. The more I dig, the more things pile up around my feet. The harder it is, the harder it gets to find my way out. The solution, of course, is to stop digging and to climb out of the hole. But that takes a discipline that I sometimes lack. Now, many years ago, one of my daughters had a writing assignment that apparently pushed her into the dreaded writer's block zone. And I don't remember the details, but I'm reminded of it regularly because it's posted on the wall in our study, even to this day. This is what she wrote. I stared at the blank computer screen until my eyes gave way and popped out of my head. They fell upon the keyboard and shriveled up into what looked like white prunes. Blood was gushing from my eye sockets onto the desk. My brain felt lightheaded. I fainted into my chair. And that, Miss Barta, is why I could not finish my narrative. Friday was like that for me, but not for the usual reasons. On Friday, I was distracted by all of the fuss about the coronavirus, COVID-19. All week, I had watched and listened as reports of confirmed cases mounted, as the stock market went into spasms, and as leaders around the world called for ever more significant actions and restrictions. All morning, I dealt with the questions of whether, and if so, how we would respond as a congregation. Around noon, my eyes gave way and fell upon the keyboard like white prunes. I was already deep in writer's block, and I needed to stop digging. Jesus and the woman from the well were far from my mind. Now, I suspect that may be true for some of you today. It's hard to shed our worries about all that is going on in the world around us, to tune out the voices that vie for our attention, sometimes shouting at one another, sometimes calling to us. These voices are powerful, and they drown out everything else, and they become our world. Isn't that how you felt this week as we thought about the coronavirus? I sure did. But isn't that the way with other things too? The voices that constantly remind you that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, not, well, whatever it is that drags you down, that holds you back. Maybe it's a small, quiet voice somewhere deep inside of you. Maybe it's the voice of someone from your childhood who called you names or worse. Maybe it's the voice of someone who says they love you, claims to be your friend, even today. I think that's what the woman must have felt like. That's why she comes to the well at noon. She doesn't want to see anyone. She doesn't want to hear anyone. I think she says to herself, no, not today. Today I'm going to the well by myself. And I won't have to listen to their comments. I won't have to put up with their stares. I won't have to pretend not to notice or pretend not to care. None of it. Not today. Well, it turns out that this isn't her day to control that. She has her head down, I imagine, lost in thought as she walks along the path. For surely no one else will be out at this time of day or at the well, not at noon. So imagine how startled she is to see someone sitting at the well. It's a man, no less. She thinks, oh, well, at least he's not going to talk to me. But he breaks every convention, every social norm, and he does speak to her. At first, he simply asks for a drink of water, for he has nothing to dip into the well to get one for himself. And that's when she really notices Jesus. He's not from the village. As a matter of fact, he's not even from near here, the area at all. And all the more remarkable, he's a Jew who is speaking to her. No, that's not quite right if you read it carefully. Make that he's a Jew speaking with her. They're having a conversation. They're discussing theology and religion. Back and forth they go. each asking questions, each responding to the other. And then it gets personal. Jesus asks about her husband. Now, often we focus on the fact that Jesus knows all about her life before she says anything about her husband, much less 5 of them. We see it as a sign of his divinity, but we miss something else in doing so. See, I think Jesus mentions these things as a way of naming the reason that the woman has come to the well at noon. He sees her past and he sees her present. He knows the hurt of losing her first husband and of being sent to live with one of his relatives. She knows the shame of doing this very same thing 4 more times. And the shame now of living with a man who is not really her husband and not of her husband's family. Jesus knows these things that have been said about her and to her. And he knows why she is here, trying to be unseen. And instead, Jesus sees her. The woman has been shamed by her family and her community, so much so that she has chosen to come to the well at noon, to avoid the comments, the stares that follow her everywhere. And here at the well, she tries to hide her past from Jesus. She tries to hide her past from God. And Jesus sees this, all of this. And instead of ignoring the situation, he names it for what it is. And then he does what no one else has done before. He treats her as worthy, in spite of the circumstances surrounding her life. Now, this has been an anxious week for me, for many of us. And there are calls for us to stay at home to avoid the risk of contracting the virus ourselves and the risk of spreading it to someone else. There are calls for us to go about our lives, particularly here at church, where our worship services and our service to others offer peace and hope in the face of our anxiety. And I've got to tell you that I've been holding my own anxiety deep inside this week, trying to hide it from you, trying to hide it from God as well. Like the woman at the well, we often come to this place distracted, our heads down, lost in thought, seeking to go unseen as we muddle through our lives. In the midst of our anxiety, find peace in knowing that however you come, no matter what you are hiding, Jesus sees you. And be assured of the promise that he will always see you. Not as the world sees you, but as God sees you. Beloved and valued all the days of your life. Let us pray. Good and gracious God, you see us as we are, and you meet us where we are. We try to hide our deepest feelings from others, even from you. You draw near and remind us that we are known and that we are loved. And for this, we give thanks. Amen.